First of all, on my behalf, this is the first lunchtime meeting which we have into the new year. My best wishes to all of you. We have passed on your wishes to you already in our newsletter. It's already a bit late in January, but I think still not too late. It's the rule here in Belgium that you can say this until the 31st of January. So best wishes to you. Also best wishes to the ambassador for, I would say, a challenging Czech presidency of the EU, a challenging presidency for, I would say, many reasons which we all know of, which we've read in the newspapers. But I think challenging also, it's a first presidency for the Czech Republic, a first presidency for the Czech Republic as a new member state of the EU, new member states already since 2004, but I think it's still quite a challenge, but also an enormous challenge in this environment that we've seen what happened already in the first 2 weeks of this year, with the Gaza conflict, then the gas problem with Ukraine and Russia, and then the ongoing economic crisis, which will certainly be the topic of the debate of this afternoon's Eurogroup, which of course is not part of, let's say, the task of the Czech presidency, but then the ECOFIN meeting tomorrow. The ambassador, Milena Vicenová, is, I would say, she hasn't got certainly the standard career of a permanent representative to the EU. She's been here in Brussels since about 1 year and has chaired, after 1 year then, 2 weeks ago, her first COREPER meeting here in Brussels. But before joining the Foreign Ministry, she was active in the, first of all, she was active in the field of agriculture, and as a journalist, let's say, she wrote, let's say, as a specialized journalist in the field of agriculture. That was in the 90s, and then joined the Ministry of Agriculture in the Czech Republic, and then became, for a short period, even Minister of Agriculture in the first government of Topolánek, and then from 2008 onwards she became a representative, permanent representative for the Czech Republic to the EU. So certainly not the kind of the traditional background for permanent representatives. We know some of them here in Brussels, but I think certainly challenging and interesting. I would probably in this context say, or make a reference to a book which we just published on a project which we did for the EU Commission on land and accession, and on a review of all the transitional agreements which existed or which still exist in the new member states on the acquisition of land, which is one of the things. If you haven't received the book, I'm happy to pass you a copy, which is certainly something which will be of interest to you, because that was one of the things on which there had been a lot of kind of specific clauses in the kind of accession agreements of the new member states. And Jos Winnen is a senior fellow with us. Let's say he just did a review on that, and the book has just come out today, so that I'm happy to pass on to you, let's say, in your capacity, or your former capacity of Minister of Agriculture and Specialist in Agriculture. The Ambassador Vicenová has said that she unfortunately has to leave by 2:15 because of the preparation of the ECOFIN Council tomorrow. So that's why I would like to start right away. Let me just say the rule of the game is that, like normally for these meetings, we have a questions and answer session which is off the record, whereas the presentation by the ambassador herself, let's say, is on the record. The ambassador will speak for about 20-25 minutes, after which there is time enough for question and answers. So, Ambassador, you have the floor. And again, thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real honor for me to be here, and I would like to thank CEPS for this kind invitation. It's a real pleasure and honor for me to present you the priorities of the Czech presidency that has started in a bit turbulent way the 1st of January 2009. I would start with, let's say, the main motto of our presidency and circumstances that follow our presidency. I would say that there are many very interesting anniversaries. I would come back to the 20th anniversary of the fall of the Iron Curtain. I would come back to the 5th anniversary of the biggest wave of enlargement in 2004. I would like to come back to the 30th anniversary of the first elections to the European Parliament and the 40th anniversary of NATO. All these circumstances are very important for the Czech presidency, and we will reflect those events in many of our both formal and accompanying actions. And Yes, I would like to mention also the main motto of our presidency, which is Europe without barriers. Me personally, I like this motto quite a lot, since it's more deep than one would think. I would like to mention at first the basic meaning. Why Europe without barriers? Because we have the common market with almost 500 million inhabitants, and we should properly use this big market. We should use all basic four freedoms, which is the free movement of capital, free movement of people, free movement of money and investment. And I tend to add also the fifth freedom, free movement of knowledge and education. Do we use those freedoms really properly? Well, not always. I could just tell you one evidence, which is free movement of labor. You know that there still are some member countries that can't use the free movement of labor. It concerns also the Czech Republic. We still can't work in 4 countries of the European Union. And I mean, it's a pity, since the analysis of the Commission clearly proves that there where the countries were open, it was a clear win-win situation, and there was a clear economic benefit of free movement of labor. That's the one meaning of the slogan. But I would like also to mention Europe without barriers towards the third countries. We take a rather liberal approach in the WTO negotiations, and we were rather disappointed with the way how the Doha round ended in July, and we were also disappointed about the outcomes in December, about new outcomes in December. But it also means Europe without other barriers, barriers like unnecessary administrative burdens, a barrier between, let's say, scientists and the business sphere, Europe without barriers of cultural character, Europe without barriers for people with handicaps and people without these physical handicaps, Europe without barriers for people in social exclusion and people living in rather good standard. So there are many points of view how we can see Europe without barriers, and we would like to use all our priorities in order to remove barriers where possible. Coming to our priorities, we used the already used model of 3 E's. This was used by the Swedish colleagues during their first presidency, and we have selected this as well because it's rather practical. It's Europe, and we add 3 E's, Europe efficient, Europe that focuses on energy, mostly energy security, and Europe and its external relations. I will come back to the first priority, Europe and economy and efficiency of Europe. I don't have to remind you on the critical situation on financial and economic market. We all know what happened with Lehman Bank in September. We all are aware of the critical situation, and I mean those who had the chance to read the forecast of the Commission, well, it's not a rosy document. And I'm afraid the expectations for the year 2009 are not very easy. We are aware of that, and here we are prepared to follow the work that was done by the French presidency, and it was quite a good piece of work. We would like to follow the work on the legislation, and we feel dedicated to continue the works on the main 3 pieces of legislation, which is the legislation for capital requirements of banks, legislation on credit rating agencies, and very difficult document, Solvency II, that concerns insurance companies. Here we are either to finalize the document itself